Hello. So today we're going to be educating you about the injustices that women of color face in the present day. You may think that racism and discrimination are a thing of the past, but we've done lots of research and are here to inform you on the struggles that women of color have to face. Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
So the first injustice that we found that the women of color have gone through is microaggressions. Even in Facebook groups dedicated to um, create a learning environment for those who want to become allies to the women. They have experienced themes of active confrontation, casual consciousness, and aggressive confrontation. So people are, when they feel attacked, they tend to be extremely negative, and social media is not a safe space for women of color. Um, Next one. The next um, the next thing that they go through is in predominantly white institutions, especially in colleges. That sounds weird. Um, they are not equal in that they can get a job, but they're separated. Um, so they're trying to figure out how to fix this problem. And they presented a solution of um, that administrators need to be willing to take the risk to transform the culture of the workplace to forge inclusivity. So they kind of have to um, be able to come together and um, like recognize that that's there and how to fix it. Go ahead. The next extreme difference between women of color and um, white communities is that they don't see um, this same level of excellent medical care. Um, that there is a risk of 16 times higher risk of an African American woman contracting HIV versus a white woman. And 12% of the nation's population is African American, and about 40% of those people living with HIV are among African American men and women, and nearly 3,400 people who have died of HIV. 52% of them were African American, and 50 have a um, low case of HIV, but it's still there. Next one. There is a huge stigma against women of color within in research. In the research departments of different colleges, they typically go towards white people. They do not include women of color within their studies, and they stereotype them, and they are not validating, and they stigmatize them, saying that they are targets. Um, this argues that white women and women of color experience stigmatization in fundamentally different ways due to the vulnerability of women of color to racism as well as sexism. Next.
All right, so for another topic I looked at was the racial leadership gap, and women of color are often overlooked and have to work twice as hard to achieve something that a male or person who's white wouldn't have to work as hard for. Their hard work is often not as seen, and employers may assume that they are not hard workers until they prove themselves. There was a study on the racial leadership gap in the Building Movement Project, which is one of the sources I looked at. And one of the quotes was, among those with a master's degree and above, women of color were most likely to be in administrative staff roles and least likely to be in senior management. So they're not seeing those higher level jobs as often. They're also most likely to express frustrations and concerns with inadequate salaries. And there's actually a story in this study about a woman who is paid significantly less than her male predecessor while doing the same job as he previously did. And even after talking with the board, no changes were made to the situation. You can go to the next one.
I don't know why it's not letting me. Oh my gosh, what's happening?
Okay, and then for something else I looked at was the importance of resilience, which I saw in a few different sources. Resilience is a large factor in what it takes to for women of color to succeed. Many women of color were interviewed in the Harvard Business Review, and they rely heavily on resilience and how often they experience setbacks. Like with how often they experience setbacks, they have to have resilience in order to keep going and keep working and work even harder than they would think they have to. There was one quote that stood out to me, and it said that we were all told that you had to be smarter or run faster or jump higher or be better than anybody else around you just to stay in the game. That was a lesson from early on from a lot of people of color's parents, which I thought that was really interesting. And women that were studied in this study developed skills that were key to their resilience, which was emotional intelligence, authenticity, and agility. As well as for incarceration, a common misconception or something that women of color or people of color have to experience is that they're often racially profiled and are treated with less tolerance and patience. They're just seen differently and not given the same opportunities and chances. The Bureau of Justice Statistics states that 11 out of every 1,000 women will be incarcerated at some point in their lives. But when looking at the representation of women of color, 36 out of 1,000 of those women are Black women, 15 for Latinas, and 5 for whites, which means that Black women are more than 7 times likely than a woman who is white to become incarcerated or behind bars. And then for women of color at the workplace, kind of going off of the other slide I mentioned, Black women earn only 64 cents on the dollar. For Latinas, it's 54 cents. So they continue to experience occupational and economic disadvantages that show the ways both race and gender affect their work and occupation. There was also research that indicated that they received a lack of leadership opportunities, ongoing persistence of sexual assault and harassment, and subtle but pervasive doubts about their competence and intelligence. So they were often looked down upon and, as mentioned before, had to work even harder to prove themselves and show that they were fit for the job.
So another big problem that all women face is sexual assault, but women of color seem to suffer higher rates of assault than white women, and it appears to have a double standard regarding their treatment. The penalties that their assailants suffer are less severe than those of people who are who sexually assault white women. A university study found disparities in treatment of sexual assault cases that corresponded with the race of their victim. So women of color are more likely to not get the same attention and care when they are sexually assaulted than white women are. Oh my gosh. So talking about some positives of women of color and combating some stereotypes that they might have. We have just a few examples of women of color who have done amazing things. Katherine Johnson worked at NASA, and one of her greatest contributions to space explorations were calculations that helped cinch Project Apollo's lunar module with the Lunar Orbiting Command and Service Module. She retired after 33 years of working with NASA, and in 2015, she got a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Dolores Huerta helped organize a strike and try to get a workers' contract negotiated. She fought for unemployment and healthcare benefits for agricultural workers, and she was the driving force behind lots of boycotts that led to a successful union contract. And our last woman of color is Junko Taibei. She was the first woman to conquer the 7 summits, which was climbing the tallest peak on each continent. She challenged lots of stereotypes about women, needing to stay at home and take care of children. And so all these women did a lot to break stereotypes of women of color and make lots of good achievements. Should I stop sharing?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Stop recording too, Sydney.